back to the Hispanic Patriot. We're deep behind the enemy lines in Denver, Colorado area. We're not going to tell you exactly where we are, but anyways, here with Hugo Chavez Rey, hailing from Peru, born and raised, raised here, born there, veteran of our country, and a great patriot. So we're all about the truth and nothing but the truth. So help us God. We have a great guest today, Nickolas Razo. And so we're going to bring him on here, but welcome to the show.
All right.
Hugo, why don't you do a little more intro on Nickolas, please?
All right. Sounds good. Well, we're here today on the day after the debates and the two debates were actually the one debate and the Trump interview with Tucker. So we're going to be discussing that. Our special guest tonight is Nick Razo, who is a millennial Hispanic activist, Chicago native, and lifetime horseman of thoroughbred horse racing. He's a political and Catholic social activist for over 15 years, an original member of TPUSA, Turning Point USA. So Nickolas Razo. Nickolas, welcome to the show.
Bring him on here. All right, Nick, you're live. How are you? Can you hear us? Hang on. He says his permission denied. Hang on. We're going to bring him on. Let's see. Bear with us. I'll bring him on, Hugo. You go ahead and talk and keep it going. I'll work out Nick, okay?
All right. So we're going to be talking about, as I mentioned, the debate last night, where Mr. Trump did not participate, and I believe rightfully so. But we got I made some interesting notes from the debate, and I got a little tidbits on different people. So the participants ranged everywhere from Mr. Burgum from Montana to Asa Hutchinson from Arkansas, Chris Christie, Mike Pence, of course, Governor DeSantis from Florida. We had, I always forget his name, Ramaswamy.
Yeah, that's right, Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy, who is a millennial 38-year-old candidate, probably one of the youngest ones that I've seen in a while. And then we had Senator Scott from South Carolina. We had Nikki Haley, also from South Carolina. And I think that pretty much rounds out the field. I did mention Mike Pence, right? So,
yeah.
So it was an interesting field. I think there was some interesting quips that I picked up on, and then there was some interaction between them and the moderators, which I'm going to give the moderators about a B+ for performance. They weren't in the A team, in my opinion, especially some of the questions that were not real pertinent, I think, to what was going on. But some of the comments by some of the commentators, and I'm going to let you also chime in, tell me what you guys thought. But for example, it seems like the mainstream media is propping up Mr. Ramaswamy, Vivek Ramaswamy. He seems to be the left-wing media darling, and that's a little disturbing. because they never do anything that's pro-Republican. So if they're if they're propping up this guy, then they must know something we don't, and it sounds like a red flag to be sure. Just kind of something we need to keep our eye on. But uh, the debate started with the typical um, our typical introductions. People talking about themselves, introducing themselves to the audience, and then they launched into some questions. Uh, one of the one of the things that stood out to me about Nikki Haley, for example, was that she decided she was going to go right into an attack on Republicans right away. Uh, for those of you that are not familiar with Nikki Haley, she was former governor of South Carolina and one of the proponents of removing the Confederate flag from the state capitol in South Carolina, even though the majority of the citizens of South Carolina opposed it. She basically did it by executive order. Um, had they put it up for a vote, I don't think that would have happened. But that's kind of where she's coming from. She's an immigrant, the son of immigrants from India. I'm sorry, daughter of immigrants, daughter of immigrants from India, and she's been around the circuit. Uh, she's served as, I believe, Secretary of State under uh, President Trump, and she's an interesting character. I mean, there's some things that I agree with her on, uh, other things I don't agree with her on, but she was definitely one of the ones that stood out. And one of the things that I noticed during her speech, when they were talking about the pro-life issue, she came on and said uh, that she was unapologetically pro-life, which we all are. I like that. And then she followed that up by qualifying what what that meant to her. And so I thought she took her own thunder out of that issue. Um, One of the other candidates, Asa Hutchinson from Arkansas, who is a rabid never Trumper, I thought he offered zero to the debate. In my opinion, he shouldn't have even been on that stage. I would have preferred to see Larry Elder, who was a good speaker and very adept on the issues. I think he would have made a better candidate in that slot. Um, how are we doing with Nick?
We're almost there. I think he
Okay.
needs to just change browsers. So we're
Okay.
getting there.
Okay. So a
Stand by, please.
couple of technical issues. So one of the ones that kind of rubbed me the wrong way right off the bat was Mike Pence. And I used to be a fan of his, but he showed his true colors on January 6th. He has continued to lie about what President Trump asked him to do. He keeps going around saying that President Trump asked him to overturn the election, which is a bald-faced lie. What he asked him to do was to take the questionable electors and send them back to the states for their own state legislators to review and send back. That's what he asked him to do. That's what the vice president had the duty and the right to do. But he keeps going around saying that he had no right to do that, that the Constitution didn't give him that power. And he either doesn't know the Constitution or he just decided that he was going to throw President Trump under the bus on that issue. So I think that he is on quicksand. He's polling very poorly. The American people see right through him. And be honest with you, I don't think he's going to be around for second round because he's not gaining any traction with his positions on that issue.
Yeah, and I agree with that. We got Nick. He's changing his browser, so he should be coming on here pretty soon. But oh, here we go. All right, we got Nick in.
We have Nick.
Welcome,
Hello,
Nick.
everyone.
Hey,
Can you hear
Nick,
me? Can you all see me?
thanks for your patience and joining us.
all right, we
No
see you,
problem,
Nick.
no problem. Thank you. There was a bit of a miscommunication. I actually wasn't having technical issues. I just got behind Chris Christie at the lunch line. So a little bit taking a little time, but that's okay. No, man's got to eat.
That'll do it for sure.
Right out of the gates.
He can block out the sun.
Man.
So
Well, it's good to be on. Good to see you guys.
So I was kind of just filling in on some of the issues that I heard about the on the debate last night. But before we get there, Nick, I wanted you to kind of just introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about yourself. I did your bio, but give us a little bit of insight of where you're coming from, what your thoughts are on the political scene, relating as it relates to Hispanics and Republicans. So.
Absolutely. Well, like you said, I've been in the game for a long time. I actually was forced into it. My family runs a horse ranch. We're thoroughbred horse racing, been horsemen our whole lives. And the city government got a brilliant idea one day to zone our ranch residential rather than agricultural. And I don't have to tell you what the taxes would have been on that. That was my first political fight. We had to fight, otherwise we wouldn't survive. And I think that's exactly what Hispanic Americans have always had to do, always had to deal with in politics, is that it's necessary. If we don't do it, then we won't survive. Our businesses won't survive. We saw that with COVID. Our families won't survive. We see that with the ideology they're trying to push. So we're very lucky in that sense to be forced into that situation because it forces us into action. And that's exactly what I did. I grew up north of where Charlie Kirk grew up, and everyone of a certain ideal was connected in Chicago. It was a beautiful place to start in politics. Beautiful in the sense of both good and bad. We got so many experiences. But I stayed local. I stayed with our people, as it were, and I just saw that their need increased, while our evaluation, the value that the political establishment put on us, was never fair. So I said, I should get into this. I should stay into this because ultimately I started with my family and I'm going to continue with the family, as it were.
Uh-huh. Well, and for the benefit of the audience, you and I met on Facebook, and at first we got off to a little rocky start, but through some prayer and supplication, we kind of figured out that really we were on the same side, and that
Absolutely.
there was no reason to have any kind of animosity towards one another. So I was glad to see that because
Absolutely.
I really liked a lot of the things that you were saying, and you know what they say about people who agree. I mean, when you agree with somebody 80 to 90% of the time, they're not your foe; they're your ally. So nobody's going to agree 100% on everything. I don't even agree with my wife that far. She can't hear me.
No. Well, no, and nobody should. You're so right, and that sort of openness to conflict and disuniformity. It's a hallmark of our community, and I think that a great value for us is not equality, it's harmony. If you hear a choir that's equal, it would sound terrible,
Yep.
wouldn't it? But in harmony, our differences shine through and is able to help the entirety of the whole. So I think a lot of it is generational. The older generation, younger generation has such different struggles And really, I think what we're learning right now is the struggle is the same. Our divisions are entirely manufactured to keep us divided. And I think we saw that on the GOP debate stage. You know, I mean, if 2016 was a circus, this year is a cheap carnival show.
Yep.
I'm sorry, that is exactly my belief. I believe it was one small step for Trump and one giant leap backwards for the whole GOP.
Well, I posted on Facebook that last night's debate was basically a contest for second place.
Yes.
I think anybody with with any real honesty is not going to question who the nominee is going to be. That it would take a cataclysmic event to prevent Trump from being the nominee. And of
Oh,
course,
absolutely.
the left is hard at work trying to see if they can achieve that. Um, and then you have people who will say, "Oh well, the left is not really afraid of Trump. They actually want him to be the nominee." And I'm thinking, really? Then why are they doing everything to destroy him? You know that makes absolutely no sense to me. And what I'm looking at long term on this campaign is I'm hoping that Hispanic Americans are watching closely to see what kind of banana republic tactics this Democrat Party is capable of, and especially those that have come here, say in the last 5 to 10 years from countries which are banana republics, and understand the techniques and the tactics that the Democrats are employing. Uh, these I want to say indictments, are a farce. Everybody with half a brain knows they're a farce, but you have these talking heads on all these liberal networks acting as if, oh my God, this is historic. A president has never been indicted. He's never been booked for a crime, etc. And that's exactly correct. But that's because this is all a farce.
Oh,
And
completely.
anybody that wants to be honest is going to recognize that. So it's going to be interesting to me. In fact, as we speak, he's probably being booked in Fulton County, Georgia, which is one of the most corrupt counties in Georgia, run by a corrupt district attorney, and a county that only voted about 20+% for Trump. So if you noticed, every place he's been indicted, it's been in an area that is heavily Democrat, and these are the people that are supposedly going to comprise a jury of his peers. Okay, I want to see a jury of billionaires up there. That would make a jury of his peers. Um,
Right. Well, and I think is going through things that many Americans have gone through the justice system and came out believing it was an injustice system. I
yeah,
mean, the Trump is so connected to the common man's struggles simply because they're using the same tactics they use to silence small businesses. They use the lawfare. They silence people of certain communities if they start to stray off the plantation, as we used to say, because one of the people, 12 people who were entirely out of the Democrat stereotype, out of the Republican stereotypes, who broke through the mold. And I think one of the reasons Donald Trump breaks through the mold is because he actually has a connection to the common people. I mean, he'll talk of problems with home appliances that a billionaire has apparently no business knowing anything about, and yet he does. He shows constantly that these struggles are shared by everybody. Everyone's been through something like this if they've ever stuck their neck out, and that's what happens when you stick your neck out. You get persecuted,
yeah,
but the most persecuted, or I should say, man and God, on the face of the earth. Persecution creates opportunity to show your virtues as a human being. And I don't think the Democrats have that because, frankly, and the establishment GOP doesn't have that
It's good.
because they don't have the same virtues.
Yeah, I had the honor of meeting Herman Cain at the 2008 GOP convention in Minneapolis, and he was uh, he's a fine gentleman. He knows his stuff. They labeled him an Uncle Tom, just like they did Clarence Thomas and any other black person who doesn't toe
Mm-hmm.
the Democrat line. Um, and I've been called a coconut, uh, Tio Taco, and other things because I don't toe the Democrat line as a Hispanic. So
Oh, I've
uh,
been that too. As you look too white to be a Hispanic. This complete misunderstanding of who we are
yeah,
as a community.
yeah. In Peru, uh, the the darker skin population, a lot of them they're called cholos, but the uh, the family, my family, and I'm known as the gringo in the family.
Yeah.
I grew up mostly here in the States. My siblings all grew up down in Peru until my brother came to the States when he was in his 20s, and my two sisters still live down there, along with my mom, who is going to be 99 next April.
Oh, God bless.
Uh, and so, there's I always get into it with my brother-in-law down there because he's one of those that watches CNN religiously down there,
Oh,
and he always tries to argue with me. And I said, "Look, dude, you're getting filtered news. You're not getting the truth. So all you know is what you're being fed through that CNN en español. You know, and uh, and that's not the truth."
We get the same. My wife, she's Korean. Well, she's American. She's born here, but her parents are immigrants from South Korea. And same thing, I'm trying to figure out how to get my father-in-law this literature, anything besides mainstream media in Korean. I'm trying to figure that part out. But yeah,
Yeah,
that is an issue with immigrants. They
oh,
only get
absolutely.
mainstream, with education, with media, movies, all of it. So
yeah,
it used to be punk rock to be
Targeted thing.
a liberal,
It's what they see.
yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Well, the debate presented an interesting dynamic. I was watching carefully to see who I thought did the best job, and I would say in terms of presentation, not necessarily content, probably the top three would be Ramaswamy, DeSantis, and Nikki Haley were the three that I thought stood out in terms of them delivering their message. Now, doesn't mean I agree 100% with their message, but I'm just kind of, if we're going to draw the comparison between the rest of the field, I would have been fine with having just those three and possibly Senator Scott uh, be the four that were on the stage, because the rest of them were wasted space, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
Um,
it's it's just
and,
facts. This is what it is.
and so, like, I thought it was interesting. At the end of the debate, I was watching some of the post debate commentary, and Trey Gowdy, former representative from South Carolina, who's now a talking head on Fox, compared the field as the field that you saw there last night, the 8 people, as 8 horses chasing Secretariat.
Well, as a
And
horseman, I love that, and I couldn't agree more.
I thought that was perfect because, Trump is so far ahead. The others are kind of using binoculars to try to see if they can see his rear end. You know,
These guys are dog racing while Trump is horse racing. I think
there
it's
you
just
go.
he's running
Yeah,
away with it, and I don't think these debates are going to help a lot of these candidates. Doug, I actually kept mistaking Doug and Asa the same person. Basically, I kept forgetting which one was Rich. If it wasn't for Doug's eyebrows, nice man. Everyone's a nice person, but
You
if you're
talk about
polling less than 1%, 2%,
Doug Burgum.
Burgum, that's what it
Yeah,
was, and then Asa Hutchins.
I give him credit for standing up there after rupturing his Achilles tendon. That had to have been a painful. He must have been under some heavy duty painkillers because I can't imagine standing up there for 2.5 hours with a torn Achilles.
No, I mean, if
So
he did a good presentation, I felt, if he was more of a presence, I think that he definitely would have had a good
yeah,
debate with that. But unfortunately, there's a sort of realistic fact that you have to be important to be the president of the United States.
yes.
It's very unfortunate for people who aren't, but
You have to be a
that's our
known.
system we have.
You have to be a known factor,
And why
basically.
shouldn't you be? You should be able to bring something to the table. Trump is independent, is an independent man
Exactly. And I
to be,
thought,
and has never been.
I
Uh,
think I
and
think Doug Burgum is a nice enough. Doug Burgum is a nice enough man. I think he's seems to be doing a good job in North Dakota, which is very conservative and very pro-life. So he's doing a good job as governor there. There's no question there.
Well, and then we
Uh,
could talk about Ron DeSantis in the same situation. If you like Ron DeSantis as governor, I had a buddy move to Miami, and he said about a year or two prior to his announcement, said, "My goodness, I hope Ron DeSantis doesn't run for president because we need him here as governor." And he
that's
goes off and does that. I think he's sort of betrayed a lot of Florida voters. I know he wants to make America Florida. I think we have 50 states for a reason, sir. I apologize, but
Well, I think he got bad advice. I think
I think
my friends. I grew up in Florida, so I have a lot of friends and connections down there, and to a T, pretty much all of them have told me the same thing: is they wish he wasn't running for president right now because they just reelected him governor, and they need him to stay governor for the full term. And my analysis with DeSantis has always been that he should not have run, and he should have waited for 28, and
it
then
would have been so perfect for him. I
he
don't know
would have
why
been
he.
well he would have been well suited to follow Trump, and then he would have had full support of the base, including all the Trump supporters, and I think that would have been the better situation. But somebody gave him some bad advice and told him to throw his hat in the ring now, and I think that's going to backfire on him. Unfortunately, hopefully
Exactly.
it doesn't
And I
damage him long term.
hopefully not. Hopefully for some of these people, especially Senator Scott, he's I think he's a fine man. I think he could have a future with the GOP, absolutely. And that's what I really wish some of these people would do because it really kind of felt like the sore losers club. I don't mean to say it that way, but like
We're
Pence
getting a
being in
little
the
bit.
field, it really felt like a bunch was is that we didn't need that.
Well, we know the essential anti-Trumpers on the stage was Asa Hutchinson and Chris Christie. Those were the two Trump haters, and they showed their true colors there. They didn't
Absolutely.
pull any punches. Then you had Mike Pence, who is a turncoat, and he's trying to ride. He was trying to do both. He was trying to do a balance act between riding on Trump's coattails while at the same time trying to throw him under the bus about the January 6th issue, which he's lying through his teeth about. Uh, Trump never asked him to
Absolutely.
Trump never asked him to overturn the election. What he told him was to do his job as president of the Senate, and send the dubious electors to the states that were having issues with the vote counting, etc., to send those electors back to their state legislators, which was totally within his purview. He had the power to do that. Trump never said, overturn the election and give it to me. That's what Pence is going around trying
Right.
to imply, and that to me just shows such a lack of character because Trump is the one that elevated him to a national stage, and that's the thanks he gets. So,
Well, and that's the problem right now. Exactly that. It's a total lack of gratitude. It's a total lack of loyalty, respect, honor, and these are things all of our community cares about. These are values.
And he's trying to come off as
is everything. You know,
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. The symbol is the slogan is "Loyal Forever." Yep. That's the slogan of the army, and that's such an American point of view, and we did not see that on that debate stage.
No, well, like I said, you know what?
It's kind of embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Yeah,
it's like, come on, you know. But in all fairness, Trump. I've seen, you know, the last debate that Trump did in the 2020 election. It was a little tough to watch too. But you know, I would say all this. It's like, dude, be presidential. You want to be president? Be presidential. You know, and it's a lost art.
What we have to remember is that here in 2020, you know, we are at such a real bottleneck, to be honest, because I can only imagine if they. I'm just going to openly say it. If they cheat the election again, I cannot imagine what would happen. You know, being from Chicago, I know what it feels like to be cheated out of an election. It's a million times. It feels certain ways because they will obscure how it looks and how it reads for as long as they need to get away with it. That is how Chicago machines work.
Yeah, the Chicago machine is the poster child for stolen elections.
Mm-hmm. And I saw plenty of them.
Home of Al Capone.
Yeah, exactly.
And Mayor Daley and his
we have a saying: we give the people what they want, good and hard.
Yep. So anybody coming from Chicago that talks about stolen elections is a joke. But
well, that's why everybody's so upset. I mean, you were talking about it earlier, Nick. You know, the most polarizing figures in history are the ones that get stuff done. Jesus Christ, you know, the Apostle Paul. I mean, no disrespect to my Catholic brothers and sisters in Christ. Martin Luther, the Reformer, you know, and others just throughout history. I mean, I'm a Bible guy, so like I love you know, church history. I love all of it, and you know.
Well, we could look at political leaders too. You know, throughout our time, George Washington is a great figure in that regard. He had to fight corruption as soon as he became president. You know, our country could have been very, very, very different if it wasn't for him, and especially his connection with the soldiers of America. He rode out in front of the army, in front of former discharged soldiers, and stopped rebellions from happening, from breaking.
Right.
So really, you know, we have this history of America. We are action-oriented, and the Democrats are not. And that's why we really rebel against their mentalities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it is two completely different ideologies. You know, I know there's a ton of wonderful people who are Democrats, a lot, you know, but the problem is, I was talking to my friend today about it, he comes from a very liberal leftist family. He's a graduate of Loyola up in Chicago, your neck of the woods. His pops was a former professor up there, and you know, very, very liberal, progressive, left leaning, and so on and so forth. And so, but like we were talking about that, we're talking about here's the problem with the Democrat, you know, what you're coming from a reference point from the left of this country sucks and is everything, all our foundation is evil and corrupt and it all sucks. Like that, if you're coming from that reference point, I don't care who you are, you're not going to have a positive outlook regardless, you know, as opposed to the right. Like if you want to look back at the true founding of the history, you know, like George Washington, someone who they wanted to give the kingship to, they wanted to make the king of the new United States, and he turned it down.
Right.
No, how about let's do this? Let's divide up the powers, and you know, I mean, anyways, the point is like there's a whole that like you hit it on the head. Honor, integrity. We got to hit it at the root. If we believe that our forefathers were dishonored, and I'm not saying they're perfect. There's, you know,
well, whatever. Nobody has to be. You know, perfection is not. And that's, I think, something that the Democrats need to learn, because they want for them. Well, perfection for one person and one group is not for another group. And I think it's funny that their way of life, their ideology, is actually against diversity, is totally uniform, does
Right.
not allow for any dissent. And for a population like us, who comes from all over the world, has so many different perspectives, it's very repressive for us. It's
I,
just like the home countries in that regard.
I call them the lemming party
The lemming.
because they all fall in lockstep like lemmings, and if their leaders jumped off a cliff, they would all follow. Uh, that's the best description I can come up with. They don't coddle dissent. They preach about diversity, but they don't support it. They preach about exchange of ideas, but the only ideas they support is what their Marxist leaders put out, and that's the Democrat Party of today.
Well,
So
and the thing is though is that's why. And here's one thing I want to keep very crystal clear on this show is like we're not about tribal politics. We're not about party. Yeah, we stand on the right because that's the policy we agree with. But we're about right and wrong. It's like if the Republican Party, and there are plenty of lemming Republicans too, and there are plenty of Democrats that are seeing all the BS and leaving, and defecting. Like this show out, Deprogrammed with Kelly Smith, I believe. Look up that YouTube channel. She's great. Kelly, I'm botching her last name, but Deprogrammed, look it up. She and so many others are starting to see like, actually, you're not about social justice, Mr. and Mrs. Social Justice heroes. You're about power, money, position. And so anyways, that's what we have. We have to keep it down to right and wrong. Like you said, Nick, honor, integrity.
Absolutely.
And that's what the Hispanic community is about. They have conservative values. They have biblical conservative values. They just need to know, look, this is right, this is wrong. We're not, if anyways, I digress on that, but that's the point is it's easy to go along with the flow, but you got to think for yourself. You got to, go what's
No, you're so right. You're absolutely right. And I think Hispanic Americans have to remember their own revolutionary roots. There was not just there was the American Revolution of the United States, but there was also other American revolutions, and all of them looked to America first. And that's the slogan now: America first, because we understood that we cannot do this reference point without something that succeeded before and kicked off. You saw all of these other revolutions come into play, and all of them wanted the same thing: freedom to live life away from overlords who had no care for us whatsoever. And there's a great Hispanic philosopher from Spain itself who said to live left without right and right without left is to live with half a brain. That you're right. We can take ideas that work from the left side and make it so that it has those values. And without genuineness, above all else, nothing succeeds. Nothing succeeds if you are not genuine. And we saw that at the debate stage today.
So tell me, why do you think the Hispanic community is so vulnerable and so easily bullied into rhetorical silence by the left's accusation of racism?
Oh, well, I think the reason for that is the double-edged sword of our diversity.
So
Roots from all over the world. Arab, Christians, Native Americans. So it's difficult with that, so many influences from so many places.
Right.
It feels vulnerable compared to something like BLM or indigenistas movements in Hispanic America, or even something like the fake right, the alt-right by Democrat Joe Biden voting Richard Spencer, it should be said. Whether it's Anglo-identitarianism, whether it's BLM, we don't have as crystallized of an identity because that's not how we construct ourselves. That's not how we think about life through this ridiculous, mono-racial lens.
Yeah,
So
we're not a monolith, and that's
No.
that's what the left doesn't understand. They want them to be, they want Hispanics to be a monolith, but they're frustrated because they don't understand the different cultures that make up the Hispanic community in the United
Right.
States, and they don't understand the multi-generational divide between, say, a first generation versus a 10th generation Hispanic, and uh, and that's where I think even, of course, the Republican Party has failed in identifying the cultural
Absolutely.
norms of Hispanics, while at the same time understanding that we're not a monolithic voting bloc, that we have Peruvians clashing with Mexicans, we have Cubans clashing with Dominicans and Puerto Ricans, we have Central Americans clashing with South Americans. So there's a big divide, but the one thing that is constant is the part about uh, the faith and the family. The Hispanic culture
Absolutely.
is a culture of faith and is a culture of family. And so those two are very powerful, in my opinion. And those are the areas that I think, as Republicans in this country, can learn a lesson by how to address and how to communicate with those different cultures, because you can bring it all back to those two items, faith and family, and then the the overwhelming majority that do escape these banana republics come here with the thought of having a new opportunity to prosper and grow their family in a free nation. And so that's what I think has to be the focus of the Republican Party. I keep pounding this drum and I'm not going to stop. Everywhere I speak, I'm going to be telling, I'm not going to be afraid to call out these Republicans who don't quite get it yet. All I hear from Republicans, especially in Colorado, is, "Oh, we need to communicate with the unaffiliated." Okay, yeah, we do need to communicate with the unaffiliated, but not at the expense of Hispanic voters. Hispanic voters, in my opinion,
Exactly.
could and should be the savior of this Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
And if this
I
party
agree.
doesn't understand that, they're going to do it at their own peril. So, I
And we absolutely.
And I would say, Nick, I'll let you go, but like, let me just say this, because see now, like Mexican immigrants, for example, I grew up in Southern California, so most of our Hispanic community there were from Mexico. I mean, here we are though, generations later. So now we have, what generation are you, Nick? Like, how many generations deep do you go back?
I'm a millennial. I'm considered a millennial, I suppose.
Well, I mean, like as far as your family goes, were your parents? Did
Ah,
your
yes.
parents migrate here? Parents? What was this?
So I wanted to say first though, my mom is actually of German and Polish descent, and of course
Okay.
the in East German and Polish know a lot about communism,
Oh
and of
yeah.
course the Hispanics know about the Banana Republic and corruption.
Hmm. Well, so my point is this: is like you know,
To ride horses when he was very young.
sorry, you're cutting out
Oh,
a little
please,
bit.
please. Oh, my apologies.
Oh, no worries. Well, anyway, so my point is this: is we've got enough Hispanics in our community now. Like, look, this country is just as much yours as it is, you know, anyone's. I mean, whether you're a brand new immigrant or you're born here, it doesn't matter. Like, a citizen's a citizen. U.S. citizen's a citizen. Period. But
Absolutely.
and we're all equal.
Oh,
That's the point. All men, women, we're all created
created
equal
equal.
and alienable rights. But the point is, it's like, so I think we're at a point now where plenty of Hispanic Americans just, you know, are on the left are starting to see it. Look, we're going to lose this country. We love this country. We love the blessings that we have. I mean, Hugo, Nick, you guys are both um, uh, products or proof of that. But the point is a lot of people on the left are seeing it. Like, if this keeps going, we're done. So I think there's a
Absolutely.
huge demographic in the Hispanic, even on the left, Hispanic Democrats that will jump over, if given the opportunity.
Well, I think it boils down
I
to
agree.
the messaging. Um, the messaging has to be one of, first of all, welcoming and inclusion, because one of the biggest concerns that I hear when I speak to people in the Hispanic community, everything from business people to, just regular folks. Um, they and this is the question I ask them is, you live your life very conservatively. You believe in faith and family, and you came here for freedom and opportunity. So why would you align yourself with a party that is clearly uh, in line with totalitarianism and socialism? Uh, Two of the things that Hispanics who left countries like Cuba, Venezuela, Colombia, and other places uh, were fleeing. Why would you then come here, become a citizen, and vote for that very same ideology? It makes absolutely no sense to me. And one of the things that I
It
hear,
doesn't from a logical perspective. Well, please.
so well, what I was going to say is what they tell me, and they've always said this one thing, and it's almost across the board. We don't feel welcome in the Republican Party. And you know what the result of that is? It's because of the negative messaging that the left has put on the Republican brand for so long that, the old adage about repeating a lie often enough to where it becomes the truth. That's where a lot of unsuspecting Hispanics are because they haven't been paying attention. So all they hear is what they get on their network news, whether it's the English version or the Spanish version.
You know
They
where
have
that's from? Sorry, go on, finish.
they have painted the Republican Party into a corner, and the Republican Party has not fought back. And that's one of the reasons that Trump was so successful in attracting more Hispanics than any other president in the last 40, 50 years. And that is because he spoke to them and they saw him as a fighter. And that's,
They
We
respect
respect that.
that. They respect that.
Hey,
Yeah, yeah. Hispanics are very proud. They're all about respect for sure.
yeah, and they didn't buy into
absolutely.
that false narrative about him being a racist or hating immigrants. They understood, and the overwhelming majority of the Hispanics who are citizens here, who came here legally and became citizens, 80+% of them are not in favor of illegal immigration. And so
Exactly.
the left wants you to believe that all Hispanics are wanting all these illegal immigrants to come into the country, and that's a lie. And all you have to do is go down to the border in Texas
And
and talk
there's
to.
no basis in history of it either.
There's not. And then you go down to Texas and
Look,
talk to
it's
some of
Hugo
these border.
Chavez.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Cesar Chavez used to have gangs of migrant work, of citizens to
yeah,
patrol the border themselves because they knew that the illegals would be the first people who would become scabs.
yep,
There's no history of us supporting illegal immigration ever.
yep. Well,
If
even
you
Mexico.
go to the border, if you go, I just watched these videos of PragerU. They're going down to Venice Beach, interviewing all the liberal college students with the blue hair they them's, and they're saying, hey, would a border, like, our border's racist, and oh yeah, we should get rid of our borders, and then they actually go to the border, and they have video of interviewing the Mexican immigrants on the other side of the border in Mexico. They're saying, hey, our border's racist. Should America lose their borders? They're saying no. If you get rid of your borders, you're going to get rid of your country. We don't want
Please
that
though.
because we want to go into your country. It's better there. We want it to stay your country, like our country. Once we're there.
Well, I get a kick out of
Absolutely.
certain Mexicans that I've had the pleasure of talking to, who who say that America's immigration policies are racist. And then I did some studying about the Mexican immigration policy and how they handle their border on their southern end. And it blew my mind. As I said, really, these people have the gall to tell us that our policies are racist? Do you know how they treat illegal immigrants in Mexico? It'll blow your
Get back
mind.
over. That's how it is.
Well, they either push them back over or they grab them and throw them in the jails and throw away the key. They're lucky if they get a hearing in 2 or 3 years. So
Exactly.
there's no human rights. There's no civil rights or anything of that kind. They they are
Not a
not.
citizen, so
They're
you
not.
made your choice.
And in Peru, it's the same way. We've had the influx of Venezuelans in Peru ever since the debacle there. And you know that every Venezuelan that's in Peru cannot legally work in that country. So what you see,
Oh,
they see a lot of people on the streets, on the corners, at every traffic light, and they're doing anything they can to earn a little bit of money because they legally cannot work, and employers will not, in fact, hire them. So
no, and if we
that
had
there's your key
our
right
illegal
there
immigration
to
problem almost overnight. Oh,
overnight. If America enforced their employment issues in this country where employers were either fined or jailed for employing illegal immigrants, it would dry up overnight because the only
exactly.
reason they come here, or the main reason they come here, is to work, earn some money. And here's another little stat that people don't know: about 65% of those who come here to work and earn money have no intention of ever becoming an American citizen. They don't want to be American citizens. What they want is the ability to work here, earn money, so that they can send it or take it back to their families in their home country. So that's that's a dirty little secret that doesn't ever get talked about. Everybody thinks,
No,
oh well, every illegal immigrant that comes here wants to be a citizen. No, they
Yeah,
don't.
no.
fun fact, just real quick, and I want to hear more from Nick. But fun fact, I just learned all these people that are crossing the border that we're giving amnesty to, or whatever they're doing, they're giving them a $2,400 a month stipend when Social Security recipients are getting half of that. So U.S. because of Biden, thank you, Joe Biden, keep America first. Social Security recipients are getting half of what people crossing the borders illegally and are staying illegal, not becoming citizens. It's just backwards. But Nick, I want to hear from you on that. Like with
For sure.
what are your thoughts on that? Why would say someone from Mexico come over?
Well, I think that
Go ahead.
Well, I think that we can look to history and how Franklin Delano Roosevelt brought immigrants and non-traditional elements into the Democrat Party, where even back then, Republicans back then dropped the ball. They lost support from Irish immigrants, from Italian immigrants, from numerous different people, because the FDR messaging, like Hugo said, the messaging is everything. And FDR was a master messenger, a master communicator, and he brought all these new elements, especially also out of New York, a lot of Catholic elements into the Democrat Party. People who were Republicans staunchly for probably ever since the founding of the Republican Party under Lincoln. And we dropped the ball because there was more concern about lack of messaging, and especially economics. FDR offered people the same handouts that Joe Biden is offering, that Obama offered, that before then Bill Clinton offered. A lot of people forget what Bill Clinton did with NAFTA to kind of cause a lot of this immigration problem in the first place. And of course, you notice when Trump eliminated NAFTA, the immigration problem improved. And now we've got people instead from God knows where, really, China, Africa, coming through the border. Some of these illegal immigrants aren't Hispanics at all. So I think in that combination, we've actually seen in history before. And if we don't learn from it, we will repeat it. We have repeated it. The Democrats rely on new people coming in who don't know their game.
Right.
But you spend enough time with shucksters and you know that they're scammers.
Right.
That's just what it is. But it takes time. It takes time to realize that somebody's trying to trick you. And so I think Democrats, that's why they rely so heavily on illegal immigrants, the pipeline to legal immigration for people that are under their thumbs, completely under their control, economically, socially, with housing, with food, with everything that is basic levels. And that's what they've been doing for almost 100 years now. But Hispanics now, as you said, with the new Hispanics, they're still unaware of the trick of the game. But we have a secret weapon. Those Hispanics who've been here long enough to realize that the Democrats, they don't like us. To them, they look so far down on us. Our totem pole is so low.
Yep.
these people, there is no respect for us whatsoever, because they will throw us away for any other group that's newer than us. And when that happens, and it's happening now, I mean, how many Hispanics does Joe Biden have in his cabinet? How many Hispanics is he promoting? I see almost none. Oh, look at let's say at the debate stage. The only thing that they mentioned about Mexico is maybe we should invade it to take out the drug cartels, which I'm sure will play great to Mexicans. Whereas Trump talked about China, that nobody's talking about, that China is buying basically all of South America, and we need to get them out. This is the Monroe Doctrine. This is our hemisphere, and we're completely ignoring it. We're allowing China and Russia and God knows who else to take over our backyard, and that's just ridiculous.
And they're China's the one, the Wuhan lab's the one pumping all the fentanyl, the raw materials for fentanyl to the cartels. They're saying, do this.
They are killing our people. They're killing America.
Right. And, Biden's in bed with China. Like, Biden doesn't want to see Ukraine win. Biden wants, that war is simply a guise to divide and deplete our resources.
Exactly.
It's all,
to Joe Biden, he has no interest in victory whatsoever. He has no interest in victory anywhere for America.
Well, at least the people behind Biden, but yeah.
True. Well, I mean, let's be honest. He's probably not thinking too much up there anymore. It's what it is.
He's on a beach chilling, dude.
I mean,
oh yeah, Trump made that comment. Oh, he looks terrible at the beach.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. Right on.
Well, really, Trump didn't say that.
Let's really be honest though, too. Biden's not calling the shots.
No.
Biden is just
he's
the puppet. I believe this from the get-go, from when Trump was first elected, that Obama has been running a shadow government for the last 8 years. And one big sign, and I was listening to another talk show host, and he made a good point. He said, look at every ex-president in the last century and ask yourself, how many of them actually remained in Washington after their term? One, Obama. He has a home in Washington among his other multi-million-dollar mansions in Hawaii and Martha's Vineyard and other places.
What a great socialist.
Pretty good gig, if you ask me. I mean, you go in there as a thousandaire and come out as a multi-millionaire and able to buy these multi-million-dollar mansions. Where did that money come from? Does anybody bother to ask that kind of stuff? I've never heard a reporter. Mr. President, when you went into office,
I'll check my wallet here.
And that I wanted to say something. You said about the lie thing. You tell someone a lie enough, they'll start to believe it. You know where that's from. Who said that was Hitler in Mein Kampf. He wrote it in his autobiography, and that was his strategy, to lie to the people enough to where they relinquished power to him. And that's exactly what the left is doing. They call us fascists. Like, it blows my mind. Like, we're fascists because, I mean, you trade one religion for the other. We are a country founded on biblical values, founded on the Bible, founded on freedom of worship. And somewhere along the way, I don't want to go too much in the weeds of this, we traded that religion for the religion of humanism, neo-Marxism, Darwinianism, atheism. And so now you got, that is the new religion of the day. So just to set the record straight, you cannot separate church from state. You're just going to separate which God your government is serving.
So true.
Right now, the Democrats' God is self. It's human. And the lie is that we are the fascists. And so that is the lie that that all of these, Hispanic Americans are believing, and Korean immigrant, all these, my in-laws, people, because that's all they see. So you ask Hugo, why is it? Yeah, I believe the Republican Party hasn't embraced them well enough, but also because they believe the lie for truth and truth for the lie. They believe we are the fascists. Like, I got a friend, he's a Chilango from Mexico City. He's a former client.
Nice. That's where my father's from.
All right. And I don't mean any disrespect for that term. That's what they told me. That was from my friends. Anyways,
that's totally fine term. It's totally fine.
Okay, cool. So Mexico City is completely corrupt and ran by the cartels. And so he's talking, we're having this conversation, and he's saying, "Oh yeah, we got to keep Trump out. We got to keep Trump out." Man, I come from countries of socialism. He believes flat out that Trump is the next dictator.
Yeah.
They don't see it. It's like the point with the Republican Party, we are for individual freedom, faith. Like, these are the values. Small government. Like, if you got to look at the facts, Dems want big government, more taxes. That is socialism on the road to communism, the way that it's all playing out. So that's my point, is you ask how they believe it, because that's the lie they've been told through all the main media outlets. They truly believe they're voting against the next Hugo Chavez. Like,
back to your point about the Hitler. Goebbels was his propaganda minister, and in America, we have the mass media, who is the Goebbels of this country. They're indoctrinating and putting out propaganda so fast that the average person can't keep up with it. So, and I'll be honest, the average person is busy living their life, earning a living, raising their family. They don't have time to sit back and analyze all the political nuances that are taking place. And so they're easily manipulated.
The Democrats know that.
It's exactly. And that's why, when you hear someone talk about an issue, I can tell within 3 seconds where these people are getting their information from just by the rhetoric that they use.
Yep.
So, I can tell if someone's well versed on the issues, whether they're right or wrong, and those that are just manipulated by sound bites on the 6 o'clock or 10 o'clock news, because that's what they repeat. They're like parrots. They regurgitate what they've heard. And I said, you don't have a thought of your own. You're not using your head. Think about this policy or that policy, what they're doing to your children in the schools, indoctrinating, brainwashing them, teaching them to, go against your values that you're teaching. Schools have no business teaching values to children. That's the parents' job. They should be teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic. That's what a school's function is. But we've gotten so far away from that the average parent is either on the side of being alert or on the side of thinking that you're a kook if you dare bring up, the facts about their children being indoctrinated and brainwashed. They think that you're the problem and not the people that are doing the manipulating in the schools. So that's what we're fighting against. It's an uphill battle, but as long as I have breath, I'll continue the fight. That's one of the reasons I started this podcast. I'm hoping I can reach.
I couldn't agree with you more on this.
I want to reach people where they are. I want to counter the negative image that the Republican brand has had to rely upon, and also to help the rank and file Republicans who are in the party to understand where the future of this party lies. And if they don't recognize that the fastest growing demographic in this country is where the future of this party lies, then they are sadly mistaken, because if this party is not saved by Hispanics, this party is going to go into the waste of history, because it's not going to survive.
It's so true.
It's not going to survive.
And there's no other group at the present moment that has the numbers, that has the arithmetic. Abraham Lincoln is the one who told Ulysses S. Grant, I need you to face the arithmetic. The amount that soldiers, what he was talking about was the amount of soldiers that would have to be lost.
Yep.
And
for us, it is about how many soldiers we need to call, but a war in democracy, a war at the ballot box, not only at the ballot box, but outside of it, to defend its integrity, to win the message out. The war is everywhere in politics. That is how democracy works, because in theory, it's meant to give us an outlet so that we don't have to hurt each other. That is what we are trying to preserve. Ironically, it is the republic that preserves peace. It is the Democratic Party that wants to facilitate violence. And I think we saw
You cut out.
and asking Trump about, what would if they try? Russia just knocked off their big mercenary guy, just the other day. So I think there's a lot of concern of how crazy are these people going to become? How unhinged are they going to be?
And if, I mean, that's the thing. You call it conspiracy theory, but look at Miami. I'm sorry, Maui.
The Hawaii, the recent thing,
Maui. What's the city called?
Lahaina.
Lahaina. Yeah, that's right. Sorry. So, I mean, here's the thing. At best, it's just there's grave neglect by the government, by the people in power. At worst, it was straight up intentional. And, it's a land grab and like straight up sacrifice, like American sacrifice. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that's true until I see enough facts, but that's what it's looking like. And
it's a horrible situation.
People could just let it happen too. They don't have to plan it. They could just, oftentimes I say it's not conspiracy, it's convergence.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Convergence?
Together with the same interest. You don't need a conspiracy for that. Absolutely. Convergence over conspiracy. Most people don't get in a room to figure this thing out. There was a pope who had a quote, "Do you know, my son, with how little understanding the world is ruled by?" These people are not smart. These are not the smartest people. When the billionaires, when the world order or whatever, IMF, whatever it is, sends their people, they're not sending their best. They really aren't. The people who run things, at all levels, they're not necessarily.
Okay, we're losing you.
And that's what the Republicans change. We believe in meritocracy. Yeah. We believe in merit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's I think this has been a good discussion. We're running over on time, so we're going to have to cut it short. But I think this is a good beginning, and I think this is a conversation that needs to be continued. Nick, what I want to do personally is I want to find opportunities to go and speak to groups in different communities, whether starting with small groups and building from there. If you can start finding activists and or key people in the Hispanic community that are willing to sit down and discuss some important issues for them, their families, their community, I think that's a good start. And I think we can start making headway. And then we can identify others who may be potential activists that would like to get involved and have their voices heard. I think the best thing to do is to show them that the Republican Party gives them the best shot at having a real voice about how their country is being run, how their businesses are being manipulated, and how their children are being indoctrinated in the schools. If we can do that, I think that we can start making some headway. It's not going to be an overnight thing, but you have to start somewhere, and have to start planting the seeds. And I think
I think we should start here in Colorado. Because the name Colorado, to turn red. We will go from blue to red. That is the destiny of the state. That is we are the heart of the country. We are named for that. And that's why I've always loved my name, Nickolas, victory of the people. It's the people's victory that we're looking after here. And if we can do this here in the heart of the country to create the most amount of visible success in one place, the entire country would be inspired by it.
That's awesome.
Amen. Hey, Nick, how can our viewers, our guests find you? Where you got a handle or something? I'm going to put here on the ticker.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, right now the best way to reach is on Facebook and Facebook Messenger. I wanted to get back in the game when I was closer to 30 because I believe that, like the Roman Empire, you shouldn't start politics as a young man until you know you are ready, till you know that you have deserved the. At 30, that's a perfect time. That's why I wanted to get my people at a youth level. So now that's the best way to do it, and there will be more to come. There will be a lot more to come.
So before we sign off, I want to give a shout out to the Colorado Hispanic Republicans and announce that they're having their first annual Hispanic Heritage Dinner on September the 14th up in Brighton. Look it up on Facebook at the Colorado Hispanic Republicans Facebook page, and I encourage people to attend that because it's going to be a good event, a good launch to connect with a lot of fellow Hispanics as well as other Republicans that are in tune with what the messaging should be. So, based on what we've discussed, I've got the quote of the day is segueing just perfectly for what we've been discussing, and that is this: the positive thinker sees the invisible, feels the intangible, and achieves the impossible. That comes to us from Winston Churchill himself. A, a great orator and a great strategist in World War II. And he was also the one that said, never, never, never give up. And that's the motto we need to march forward with and fight for the America that we want and we know that the founders wanted for us. And so with that, I want to thank you, Nick, for coming on board tonight. And I think we're going to be having you on more often than not. But feel free to reach out with any new information that you uncover. And let's try to start getting that message out to the community. So,
Nick, I can sense that you have a heart for this. You know, you're a gentleman and a scholar, and that's important to always remember, my friend. You know,
Thank you, sirs.
how does the scriptures tell us to be the spirit? The fruit of the spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, right? You got that love, that gentleness, that, you know, let's bring honor. You're going to bring honor back to the political sphere, you know, to make it polite again, to be a true gentleman. So thank you for the honor of meeting you and being on our show.
all right.
Oh, it was an absolute pleasure, guys. Really, I look forward to doing it again. I really do.
Right. All right. Thank you. And to our audience, please go to our website and support us because we need all the help we can get. Get out there and support a cause that's going to benefit these United States for all citizens, from all backgrounds, from all ethnicities. That is our goal, and we need to fight against the socialists and the Marxists that are trying to undo what the founders laid a foundation for. And personally, I will never lay down for them, and I think we're all in agreement with that. So thank you again, and good night to everyone.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We'll see you guys.